something like that.
Mm-hmm. So how would you say race relations were when you were growing up?
Poor with the adults. It's funny because kids can get along. When you were young, you could get along with your kids. Only where the problem usually come in if there was a crowd, more than one or something like that. Then things were said. But the adults would, to me, was more negative toward than black than young people.
Did you ever hear of any lynchings or violence?
No, not in our area, no.
Was the community in large, were they fearful of lynchings or any kind of violent?
I don't know. I've never heard of it in our communities.
Okay. So you have any last words you'd like to?
Only I'm glad to be here. This means a lot. This means a lot to me, and my classmates, so forth. You, because I know your family, and it's just great.
So why do you think it's so important that Congressman Connolly has taken the initiative to really bring to the forefront these stories? If you could say to Congressman Connolly, what would you say to him?
I would thank him because, and I think it's necessary because I have grandchildren and great-grandchildren who would never know anything. Maybe now, they would have something to, some place to go as far as to talk about it and see what it was like. We have to be careful. I think we have to be careful explaining it to our grandkids and everything because you don't want to be negative about it. So I think this is great. I've heard good things about the congressman. I've heard good things about him. In fact, last night a young lady was telling me how he felt about the disabled and stuff like that. I think it's great. Maybe we can get something in some of the schools. Because you'd be surprised at the people who teach in Fairfax County and around who don't know anything about the history or something like that, what went on in Fairfax County. And I know that's right because in the 60s, I worked at a school and there was a teacher from Ohio, a white teacher, very nice lady, and she was really surprised. She didn't know anything about what was going right here in Fairfax County. That was in the 60s.
That one last thing, where did you, career-wise, where did you end up? You worked and retired for Fairfax, correct?
Fairfax County,
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I went to work at Fairfax County. Actually, I had a trucking business, and I had a bad motorcycle accident. So I said, well, I guess I better get a job. So I went to work for Fairfax County full-time. And after the interview, I came home, I told Mary, I said, because I hadn't worked for nobody for a long time. She said, why are you acting like that? I said, because I got the job. I knew I got the job. And I really didn't want to go to work for anybody at the time, but I was getting much older. So when I went for my interview, I talked to this gentleman, so he told me where I would be, carried me to this office in the main courthouse. Carried me to this office and introduced me to the man who was in charge of the overall custodian crew. And I was going there, not as his assistant, I was going there as the night supervisor. So when he was showing me around, giving me a tour of the building, he carried me upstairs, I think it was on the 3rd floor. On the back hallway from the judge's chamber, there was this huge room about this size. And actually it was a mop closet. So he told me, he said, this is where your office would be. And now this is on the back hallway, and it's doing at the end of the judge's chamber. And I said, well, I listened to him. So the next day, when the supervisor asked me, did I get a tour of the building? I said, yes. I said, but I can't understand why my office got to be upstairs in a mop closet. And he looked very surprised. He said, no. So when I came to work the next day, my desk was downstairs, right across from the guy who had took me on the tour. And that's where I stayed. We didn't get along well after that, but, but that's where I stayed until I retired.
And what year was this?
When I went to
When
work
you started?
there, 82.
82.
Yeah, it was 82.
And when did you retire?
In 98. Yeah. Yeah, it was an experience. It was an experience. But the crew, the people that I worked with, I was classified as a building supervisor. And then when I left there, I was a contract administrator when I left there because they had converted to the contract. You know, all the custodial work and stuff was farmed out. You know, and it was good. I enjoyed it.
So other than the mop closet, did Fairfax County treat you well?
Yes, very well. Yeah, very well. It's funny how things go on because with the mop closet incident, there were other people, a few other people, who didn't think too much of this guy anyway. So that didn't set too well. But that's the way things were.
What do you think? Where do you think we are now racially?
I think we have come a long way, but there we have a ways to go in some cases. You know, for instance, I think in the medical part, as far as medical care and so forth, like I think we have a place, you know, a long ways to go. I think there is a big gap for people who want to go into business. It's still kind of hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just get to the point if you don't know somebody or something like that, you know, it doesn't work too well.
So talking about medicine, where were you born?
Washington, D.C.
At
Columbia Hospital.
Columbia Hospital. Was that segregated?
Back then, yes.
Okay.
That was a many years ago.
So not Freedman's. You were born at.
In Columbia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mr. Sultan, this has been absolutely incredible. Your life history is so informative. I can see that future scholars and generation of people who listen to this tape will really get a feel for what it was like growing up in Northern Virginia during Jim Crow segregation. And I'd like to thank you for your service to this country in the military during a time when you were thought of as a second-class citizen,
Yes.
but yet your courage and your determination was to uphold the honor of the Army and the integrity of this country and the Constitution, and that takes a lot of courage and a lot of fortitude, and it is an honor to be able to sit in front of you and talk to you. And I know I'm saying this on behalf of Congressman Connolly, that he thanks you for taking the time to come and be a part of this initiative. And on behalf of George Mason Folklore Department, the Library of Congress, and the libraries at Prince William and Fairfax County, all of these entities are thanking you for your participation. Your testimony will be at George Mason and the Library of Congress, and it will be there for a long time, and future scholars and historians will be able to listen to your words of wisdom, and hopefully your words of wisdom will make sure that we never have to go through anything like this again. So thank you.
All right, and thank you for having me.